Also, to go over the logic, basically I wanted to do as much as I could pulling from a data object. So I have the data object on the right. So basically just made a huge array with a bunch of objects, and each object corresponds to each item, like the one section and then the three of a kind or whatever. So I'll show you kind of how that works. So what I did is in each object I gave it a bunch of values, key values. So the first one is the icon that I have, and then a button. If it's a button, then I put it as true. If it's an input, like a text field, then I did that as true. The default value, so like if you look at, where was it? Oh, I actually haven't implemented that yet. Might not have to actually. But anyway, that was going to be for this one right here, like bonus. But I think I actually just passed in the actual score for it. And then I chose to put an enabled option in here, and that is just when you click on a button, it switches that individual object to disabled or to false. So that way that entire button section will be disabled. Extra was one I did specifically for the bonus, because I didn't want that to, I don't know, I was just trying to think through the logic that way. For some reason that just made sense to me. And then I also did the values for all the buttons. So I just put the value that they are. So you look at 1, 2, 3, and 4. They all have different values for all their buttons. So I just did a v4 over those values. And I'll show you how this data corresponds to the actual code. Now I have the upper and lower section, the left and right columns, but I'm just going to focus on this column first because that's all that really matters. It's the same logic in both of them basically. So I iterated with a v4 over the upper new, which is the first array, which is the left column. And then I named each individual object item, and then for that I put the text in, which is right here. And you can also see that that is also going to match the icon. So I put the text in here for things like this, like bonus will have text, but these other ones will just have an icon. So I just switch these. So if there's an icon, it'll put the icon. If there's only text, it'll just do text. And then I don't know why I did it this way, but it just kind of made sense while I was going and just practicing. But so I wanted to make all these individual buttons be really, really uniform and consistent. But if I didn't do a column, it actually would really mess up the code right here. So I put the column and the button and everything else within the paragraph tag. It's probably not the best practice, but anyway, it worked. So in here, I just set the color for it, just some styling, and then I did a v4 over the item, which is already specified in the first for loop, and that just allowed me to type less code, and so I just iterated over the values in that array. So if you look at the values right here, or in that object, iterates over the array, and then that will print out the value of that button. Then when I click on that button, I have a function down here, add. It takes in two parameters. First the value, which is one of the values from this array, and then the section as well, because I wanted to be able to add the upper and lower section separately, because on this side you have bonus, and bonus is if this section on the left is 63 or higher. So I had to separate this column and their datas, the data from each one. So that's how I did it, is I just specified what section, and then if section was passed in, then I would actually just increase two data objects right here. So I have upper and lower section, and I would just add those values to that, and then I would also add the value passing in to the total score, which is what shows down here at the bottom. And then if you go back up, after I created the button, I first did a VIF. So if item.button is true, which right here, button is true, then I want a button right here. But if upper score, oh, let's see. Oh, this upper score is the bonus. So if it's greater than or equal to 63, and item.extra, which is right here, is true, then I want to send an alert. And so I basically just styled an alert that said bonus added, and then the bonus is added to the score. So that's how I did that. And then in here I also did a item.extra. Oh, this is just for the bonus as well. So anyway, that's how I did that. I guess I can also show you, if you look at the other section. I'll just scoot this over. For some reason, oh, there we go. I was like, where's the other values? So right here, for the actual input value, rather than a button, I just changed it to a text field. So I said if item.input is true, basically saying like, is it an input or is it a button? And if it's a button, add values. So I just did item.input if it's true in that data object, then do a text field. And I just did a v model so that item.values, which is currently set to null for a text field, is bound basically to that input. And then I just added a button to the side so that when you press the button, it adds the number. So this right here is what I was talking about in the last video about switching. So parse that input, make sure that the value that is put into the text fields is a number and not just a string, because otherwise it ruins my total value. And then also add it to the lower score data object right here. And that's it. I added the dialog, of course. So dialog is if the end of the game is true, then the dialog, or if there's 13 values, I believe, for the whole game, 13 different options you can do. So if rolls, which I added and incremented every time this method is called, if it is 13, then I'll set the dialog box to true. Otherwise, it'll just stay false. And that's how I end the game. So anyway, that's basically all of the logic for the whole game. I just need to do one more thing, and that's the Yahtzee, and then it's pretty much done. And that's it.